All right. In case what is happening today is not enough for you, tomorrow at 10 a.m. here at UN headquarters, the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs will be hosting a high-level pledging event for the Central Emergency Response Fund 2026. That will be done in collaborations with the Government of Ireland and the Philippines. Our Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, is expected to deliver remarks, as well as Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Mr. Tom Fletcher. As humanitarian crises around the world outpace the funding available to address them, this pledging event for the UN's Global Emergency Fund, managed by OCHA, which is also celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, seeks to mobilize greater financial commitment so that humanitarians can keep fast-tracking life-saving support for people in need. Looking back to 2025, SURF allocated more than 311 million United States dollars to enable a humanitarian action in over 30 countries and territories, including Gaza after the ceasefire, and for people fleeing violence in the Darfur region of Sudan. The event will take place in ECOSOC and will be broadcast by our friends at UN Web TV. Staying on humanitarian issues and money, today we and our partners launched the 2026 Global Humanitarian Appeal to save millions of lives where shock hits the hardest, in wars, in climate disasters, earthquakes, epidemics, and wherever crop failures may occur. The Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says the immediate priority is to save 87 million lives with $23 billion in funding. Ultimately, the aim next year is to raise a total of $33 billion to support 135 million people through 23 country operations and 6 plans for refugees and migrants. The UN humanitarian chief, Tom Fletcher, said this appeal sets out where we need to focus our collective energy first, life by life. He noted that the Global Humanitarian Overview 2026 is grounded in reform, evidence, and efficiency, emphasizing that we are shifting power to local organizations and putting more money directly into the hands of people who need it. We will now take this appeal to member states and ask for their backing, which means asking for their money. As you know, brutal funding crisis cuts this year strained and even snapped humanitarian lifelines. The funding received so far for the 2025 appeal, which comes to an end in a few weeks, is $12 billion, was the lowest in the decades, with humanitarians reaching 25 million fewer people than in 2024. Turning to the situation in Jerusalem, as you may have seen early this morning, Israeli police, accompanied by municipal officials, forcibly entered a United Nations compound used by UNRWA in East Jerusalem. Police motorcycles as well as trucks and forklifts were brought in, and all communications were cut. Furniture, IT equipment, and other property was seized, and the UN flag was pulled down and replaced by the Israeli flag. In reaction to this event, I can tell you that the Secretary General strongly condemns the unauthorized entry into the United Nations Sheikh Jarrah compound held by UNRWA, located in occupied East Jerusalem by Israeli authorities. This compound remains United Nations premises and is inviolable and immune from any other form of interference. As recently confirmed by the International Court of Justice, any executive, administrative, judicial, or legislative action against United Nations property and assets is prohibited by the Convention on Privileges and Immunities of the United Nations. The Secretary General urges Israel to immediately take all necessary steps to help restore, preserve, and uphold the inviolability of UNRWA premises and refrain from taking any further action with regard to UNRWA premises, in line with Israel's obligations under the Charter of the UN and its other obligations under international law, including those concerning privileges and immunities of the United Nations. That statement is being shared with you as we speak. Turning to the situation on the ground in Gaza, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tells us that conditions remain dire and the needs far outpace the humanitarian community's ability to respond, given the persistent impediments we continue to face. These obstacles include insecurity, customs clearance challenges, delays and denials of cargoes at crossings, and limited routes available for transporting humanitarian supplies within Gaza. Such constraints are especially challenging to the UN and our partners' efforts to bring in sufficient shelter, water, sanitation, hygiene items, as well as education supplies. Colder weather is increasing already immense needs for shelter and winterization material. Our partners leading on child protection support have distributed winter clothes to over 217,000 children across the Gaza Strip since October. In the ongoing efforts to restore access to health care, 30 partners organizations are now providing services in northern Gaza, nearly double the number prior to the ceasefire. Plans are also underway to add more health service points in North Gaza Governorate, given the lack of accessible facilities there, and repeated denials for the UN and our partners to access the Kamal Adwan Hospital. Across the Strip, the number of routine vaccination sites has risen from 22 before the ceasefire to 33 now. Meanwhile, our partners' leading efforts to improve access to water sanitation report that work continues to repair and restore water sanitation networks. 11 teams are currently deployed across flood-prone areas to empty storm drains and reduce the risk of flooding. Since the beginning of the month, our partners managed to reach an additional 100,000 people with regular food assistance, which consists of one 25-kilogram bag of wheat flour and 2 rations containing basic food supplies. Our humanitarian partners working on improving access to education reported that as of last Thursday, 65 classrooms have been fully rehabilitated across Gaza, with repairs of another 18 classrooms nearing completion. Additional repairs are planned to enable children to restart their education after more than 2 years. Meanwhile, OCHA warns that access and movement constraints within Gaza remain a serious issue. Between the 13th of October and last Thursday, 295 contractors, 28 staff, and 21 healthcare personnel were denied by the Israeli authorities from taking part in UN missions within Gaza. That's an average of nearly 7 per day. These denials disrupt humanitarian planning and force ourselves and our partners to make last-minute adjustments that can reduce the capacity to lead or for missions being canceled altogether if substitute personnel cannot be identified. We continue, of course, to call for the unimpeded access to humanitarian goods and services, and for all impediments to be lifted so that we and our partners can scale up assistance and reach every single person who needs help. Turning to Sudan, following the horrific reports of 3 separate drone strikes, 2 on a kindergarten and 1 on a hospital in South Kordofan on December 4th, the Secretary General condemned all the attacks on civilians and civilian infrastructure. You will have seen the statement we issued over the weekend, in which he noted that targeting schools and hospitals may constitute serious violations of international humanitarian law. He stresses that all parties must respect civilians and allow for rapid and unfettered humanitarian access, including medical care, wherever it is needed. The World Health Organization tells us that 114 deaths in these attacks were reported. That includes 63 children, with 35 others injured. WHO said paramedics and responders came under attack as they tried to move the injured from the kindergarten to hospitals. Violence has continued in other parts of Sudan. On Friday and Saturday, renewed clashes displaced as many as 600 people from Kadugli in South Kordofan to over 600 people, and over 600 people fled Omran village in Rahad locality in North Kordofan, according to the International Organization for Migration. Fierce fighting in West Kordofan has further imperiled civilians. In West Darfur State, a suspected aerial strike triggered a fire near the Adre crosser boarding, destroying parts of a market and neighboring village along a critical humanitarian commercial supply route. Meanwhile, in Blue Nile State, a strike on a major electricity station over the weekend caused widespread blackouts across the capital, Damascene, disrupting water and health services. In North Darfur, insecurity continues to force people to flee villages around El Fasher amid acute shortages of food, water, and essential services into the city. Our humanitarian partners report that nearly 15,000 people arrived in Tawila in recent weeks, severely straining and overstretched host communities. Our humanitarian partners are scaling up assistance at Al-Afad camp in Daba, which is now hosting 11,000 people. They're providing shelter, food, and expanding water, sanitation, nutrition, and educational services. Critical gaps remain because of funding shortages. The Secretary General continues to call on all states with influence over the parties to take immediate action to halt the fighting and stop the arms flow fueling this conflict. He also renews his appeal for the parties to agree on an immediate cessation of hostilities and to resume talks towards a lasting ceasefire and a comprehensive, inclusive Sudanese-owned political process. You will have seen that over the weekend or early this morning, we issued a statement marking 1 year since the fall of the Assad government in Syria and the end of a decades-long repression in that country. In his statement, the Secretary General paid tribute to the resilience and courage of the Syrian people, and adding that today's a moment to honor their sacrifices and to renew the aspirations that drove such historic change. Mr. Guterres said that what lies ahead is far more than a political transition. It is a chance to rebuild shattered communities and heal deep divisions in Syria. A future in which every Syrian, regardless of their ethnicity, their religion, gender, or political affiliation, can live in security, inequality, and in dignity. The Secretary General reaffirms our commitment to working with Syrians to make this transition a success, and he calls on the international community to stand firmly behind this Syrian-led and Syrian-owned transition. Working with the Syrian people will be our new Deputy Special Envoy for Syria. Today, the Secretary General appointed Mr. Claudio Cordone of Italy as his new Deputy Special Envoy for Syria. Mr. Cordone will start on January 1st, 2026, and he succeeds Najat Roshdi of Morocco, to whom the Secretary General is grateful for her dedication, her hard work, and leadership during pivotal moments of the UN's effort to support the political transition process in Syria. Mr. Cordone brings over 40 years of experience in international relations, international human rights, and humanitarian law. He's been serving as the Deputy Special Representative for Political Affairs and Electoral Assistance with UNAMI, the UN's political mission in Iraq. He also oversaw our efforts to address the fate of missing persons from 1990 to 91 in the Gulf War. He's also worked for UNRWA in Lebanon, and he's a good guy. Part of the challenges that will come up in Syria are immense. Forced displacement was among the deep wounds inflicted by this conflict, and return is critical to end years of suffering and ensure stabilization. Our colleagues at the UN Refugee Agency say that a year on, over 3 million refugees and displaced Syrians have returned to their homes. UNHCR is working to improve conditions for returnees. Around 4.5 million Syrian refugees remain in neighboring countries, most living below the poverty line. They need continued support, as do the countries who are generously hosting these population of refugees. UNHCR is calling for increased donor support close to this critical funding gap, with $1.5 billion 2025 appeal, only 33% funded. Turning north to Ukraine, where our colleagues from the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warned that in recent days, an alarming pattern of intensifying hostilities in frontline areas and persistent attacks on critical civilian infrastructure has continued across Ukraine, resulting in more power outages and disruptions to vital services nationwide. Between Friday and the early hours of this morning, authorities report over 100 civilian casualties, including nearly 20 deaths. 2 children were reportedly killed and several more were injured. In the regions of Sumy, Kharkiv, Donetsk, and Zaporizhzhia have been hit the hardest. Ukraine's energy ministry is also reporting new attacks over the weekend on critical facilities in at least 8 regions in the north, in the east, and the south of Ukraine. These strikes caused emergency outages and prolonged duration of scheduled power cuts nationwide. Apart from electricity, heating and water supplies were also interrupted in Chernihiv and Kremenchuk, as well as other parts of the regions of Chernihiv and Poltava. In Kherson City, our friends at the World Health Organization report that an attack on Thursday damaged and disrupted water and gas supply to a maternity ward. Hostilities are also causing widespread damage to homes and civilian infrastructure. In Kyiv, an attack on Fastiv town destroyed a railway station. In the wake of these attacks, we and our partners have continued to provide emergency aid, winter-related assistance. Yet these latest developments raise concerns about the worsening humanitarian situation in Ukraine as colder weather sets in. During the latest trip to Suny and Chernihiv regions, our humanitarian colleagues reported a growing need for generators, fuel, and other winter-related supply. Moving to the African continent, and most specifically in the DRC, our colleagues at OCHA tell us that fighting is continuing to intensify in South Kivu province, particularly around the localities of Kamanyola, Luvungi, and Katogota. Our humanitarian partners tell us that more than 200,000 people have been displaced across the province since December 2nd. Over 70 people, mostly civilians, have been killed. More than 80 others have been injured since the violence escalated. Displaced families have fled with no belongings and are now contending with overcrowded shelters, heightened risks of gender-based violence, outbreaks of cholera, measles, and limited access to health care, partly due to an ongoing nurses' strike in the area. Civilians have also crossed into Burundi to escape the fighting. Shelling was reported in the town of Rugombo in the province of, in the northwest of Burundi, raising concerns about the conflict spilling over more into Burundian territory. UNHCR in Burundi says that some 3,000 people are currently living in difficult and precarious conditions at the Sishimir Transit Center, far exceeding its intended capacity. The National Office of the Protection of Refugees and Stateless Persons in Burundi is calling for urgent action, particularly in the areas of food, health, water, sanitation, and hygiene. OCHA is closely coordinating with local authorities and partners to prepare for and support a potential response. We reiterate yet again our urgent call on all parties to the conflict to uphold their obligations under international humanitarian law and ensure the protection of civilians and civilian infrastructure. Humanitarian access must be guaranteed so that life-saving assistance can reach those in need. We also need additional money to scale up the response. The humanitarian response plan for the DRC is only 22% funded, with only $562 million received out of $2.5 billion needed. Also, you will have seen that yesterday evening we issued a statement in which the Secretary General expressed his deep concern about the attempt to unconstitutionally seize power in the country of Benin. The Secretary General unequivocally condemns any attempt to undermine democratic governance in Benin, which could also further threaten the stability of the region, calling for full respect of the international law and constitution, full respect of the rule of law and the constitution. And our representative for West Africa and the Sahel, Leonardo Santos Shimao, is actively engaging with national authorities and state and other stakeholders, as well as regional and international partners, to support efforts to restore peace and stability in Benin. He reaffirmed our commitment to supporting national and regional institutions in safeguarding constitutional order in the country and across Benin, across the region. To this end, he's also working with ECOWAS and the African Union to promote a regional approach. And lastly, I should have included in DRC that our friends at UNICEF are telling us that the DRC is facing the worst cholera outbreak in the past 25 years. Over 64,000 cases have been recorded since the beginning of the year, including nearly 1,900 deaths. That's 1 in 4 people. And 1 in 4 people impacted is a child. UNICEF is working across multiple sectors to prevent and respond to the disease and requires about $6 million next year to ensure that cholera rapid response mechanism is properly funded. Deji.
Follow-up on the raid of UNRWA premises in Jerusalem. What's the condition now? Has the municipality still occupied the premises, or they left?
No, they're continuing to occupy. And if you'll recall, our personnel vacated the compound at the beginning of 2025, which in no way alters the legal status of this compound.
So, according to Israel, UNRWA owned about 3.5 million US dollars in unpaid tax and interest. Is that theory accepted by the UN?
No. It is not applicable under the general conventions that cover the relationship between the United Nations and member states.
So, which means this is actually a violation of international law.
That would be a correct interpretation by you.
Okay. Another issue is we know that there are conflicts occurred last weekend, during the weekend, and even today between Cambodia and Thailand. What is the reaction from the Secretary General on the latest development?
Look, we're very concerned about these latest developments. We've seen the reports of airstrikes and mobilization of heavy equipment around the border. It's important that both Thailand and Cambodia do whatever they can to de-escalate and to return to the framework that was signed in Kuala Lumpur just a few months ago, on October 26. They need to use that mechanism to engage in dialogue and find ways again to lower the tension. And we, of course, stand ready to support all efforts at promoting peace, stability, and developments in the region. Pam, then Amélie.
That's all right. It's a long, cold weekend. The protective shield around Chernobyl was damaged earlier this year, but the IAEA just put out a statement because of a Russian drone strike. That compounds the strikes against Zaporizhia. What is your sense of nuclear fallout danger in the war in Ukraine?
We are in the hands of the IAEA for any scientific information. I think their statement was very clear. They have the mandate to deal with these nuclear issues, including, of course, especially, Chernobyl. We know the past history of Chernobyl. All of this is extremely, extremely worrying and should push the parties to ensure that nuclear facilities are protected in any way they can.
Meaning the parties should establish this, not the United Nations?
Well, the IAEA has a mandate. What I'm saying is the IAEA is not involved in the fighting. I'm saying that it is important that the parties should do whatever they can to ensure that these facilities are kept safe.
All right, thank you. And
under the aegis of the IAEA, yes.
And on Japan's earthquake and tsunami, are there UN? I didn't hear if you said.
No, I saw the news report as I was coming in. I don't. Obviously, few countries are as well prepared for earthquakes and tsunami than Japan. And of course, should the government need any support from the United Nations, we stand ready.
Thank you.
Madame AFP.
Thanks, Steph. Just a follow-up on Syria and the nomination of the deputy envoy. Did I miss something, or the new envoy has not been nominated?
No, you did not miss. No.
Okay.
Unless I missed it too. Yeah.
Has Geir Petersen stopped working as the special envoy?
He's still working. I think I have to get the exact date of when he stops, but it's very soon. In which case, then there'll be an officer in charge named. Yes. Go ahead. Yes, sorry. Go ahead, Kirsten.
Just a point of clarification for me. I thought I heard you say that the goal for OCHA next year is to raise $33 billion, and I thought Fletcher said it was $23 billion. I just wanted to verify that. And also, you said that in 2025, $12 billion has been raised so far, and that I wasn't sure if you said it was the lowest in the decade or in decades.
Let me go back. I will go back to my notes in a moment. But otherwise, everything's on the OCHA website, so I would trust them more than I would trust me. Okay. Namo, please.
Yes, thank you, Stéphane. Just on the global humanitarian overview, which came out today. When you compare this to the report that came out in 2016, 10 years ago, at the time, around 95 million people needed humanitarian assistance around the world. Today, that number has more than doubled to 230 million. My question is whether there is something more fundamentally wrong with the way we approach the issue, humanitarian delivery and that, or I mean, what does the UN believe must change beyond scaling up funding? Thank you.
Well,
If we are to ever reverse this
we
trend.
need to do two things. Our colleagues at OCHA are focused on helping all of those in need, right? It's costing a lot of money. The better investment would be to invest in dealing with the root causes of that is forcing people to move, that is putting people in the crosshairs of civil wars. Address climate issues, address human rights issues, address governance issues. And that is a more cost-efficient way of doing things. And of course, beyond the cost efficiency, it would stop people from suffering in the first place. Islam, and go ahead.
Thank you, Stéphane. I asked a question last week about 8 and 10 years old kids who were killed by Israeli fire while they were collecting firewood. And according to the reports and local sources, this weekend, Sunday, 3-year-old girl whose name is Ahid El-Bayuk is killed by Israeli fire, direct fire, in El Mawasi, which is designated area as a safe zone by Israeli military. Israeli military posted in the same day on social media claiming that they killed someone and it was an immediate threat. The question is, this pattern, what's your comment on this pattern, if not past 2 years since the October 10th, that killing, if this violate the ceasefire, if not, what would be your comment
Islam,
on that?
I have not seen the particular report you mentioned, but what I can tell you is that there can never be an excuse or a pretext for a 3-year-old girl to be killed. And every civilian that has been killed deserves justice and accountability.
And if I may follow up, another question about the humanitarian aids. It's going to be almost 2 months, as far as you state every day that the impediment and the bureaucracy is still going on, still not enough humanitarian aids reaching to Gaza. Do you, as a UN, do you report this to the, have you ever reported officially to the related UN parts, even the ceasefire parts about this?
I mean, these are issues that we that we address every day with our Israeli counterparts. These are issues that are often routinely reported back to the security councils in the reports that both our political and humanitarian colleagues make. Minlu.
So I have a follow-up regarding the aid appeal cut. Both you and OCHA used the word brutal cut. May I ask which country or regional programs were downgraded the most?
We saw cuts across the board. We saw public cuts made by the United States. We saw cuts, also significant cuts made by a number of European countries. Anything online? Yes, Iftikhar, go ahead.
And myself also.
Okay, and Abdelhamid after. Go ahead, Iftikhar. You're muted, sir. All right. Iftikhar, I cannot hear you. Let's go to Abdelhamid while you fix your microphone. Go ahead, Abdelhamid.
Oh, thank you, Steph. Do you think that the Israeli attack on UNRWA's headquarters in Jerusalem today, raising the Israeli flag instead of the UN flag, came as a response to the extension of UNRWA's mandate in the GA last Friday?
Listen, that is a question you yourself have to answer. I have no insight into people's thinking except for ourselves.
But why the statement issued by Lazzarini and did not condemn that, flagrantly condemning what happened? Just talking about it rather than.
I think you heard the Secretary General's statement, and the Secretary General being, and I would hate to use that word, the supreme authority over the UN Secretariat. I think we've made the UN's position pretty clear.
The other day, today also, there was 2 Palestinians killed in the city of Qalqilia. Are you aware of this?
I have not seen those. I have not seen those reports. All right, Iftikhar, let's try you again. All right, my friend, I think we have a technical problem. Let's go ahead. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, I can. Go ahead.
Sorry. My question has been asked just now by Abdul Hamid, but following up on Israeli raid on UNRWA headquarters in Jerusalem, what can the United Nations do in this case? What options do you have?
Our options are legal and administrative, so to speak. This has been raised verbally by our offices in Jerusalem with counterparts in the Israeli government. Our Office of Legal Affairs here will be in touch very soon with the Israeli mission to try to clear things up and to try to reverse the situation. It is, it is incumbent on every member state to uphold the protections that are granted to the United Nations by a treaty that they've all signed on to.